Hello again. We're going to continue with our mini-series. We're going to do a little recap from last time. As you recall, last time around I was talking about modding characters, and one thing I did was I took a guy who looked like him, I cut his arm off, and I glued his arm to another character. And I took the other character's arm and glued it on him. And so I just want to follow up to let you know this is sort of what it looks like when they're painted and they held. Could be a little better looking. I could have turned that arm forward a little, made it look a little better. That's a little awkward looking, but just to show how that all turned out. I also mentioned that I was going to try behind the scenes. Took a bunch of little pieces and parts of people, and I cut them up, cut off arms, cut off legs, cut off bodies, and I was going to attempt to make Urgathoa. And so like I said, it's too difficult for me to do on screen, but that's how she turned out. I'm going to paint her. She'll look better. I just wanted to show her unpainted just so we could see things. I had to use putty in some places. Obviously, I had to repose her a little. I reversed the image because that's the parts. For a first time around, it didn't turn out bad. Obviously, I didn't get the end of her scythe perfectly like I did. But I'm going to paint her. Next week you'll see her painted and have a better idea what she looks like. Again, I started painting not knowing what I was getting into. I started modding not knowing what I was going to get into. Again, up until last week, this was the most difficult thing I had ever done. So, for a first time out, this isn't bad. You got to try. But this week, so we got some nice little furniture terrain. Get that head out of there. And I use this as my opener because we're sort of going to look at quote-unquote background this time around. More to the point, we're looking at basing, or fancy basing, if you want to say. So when we started out, I talked, my first video, I talked about basing, and this is what basing was. It was gluing someone to a washer and putting some putty on it and painting it, and or in some cases they would come with a little base and you would just glue them on, and that's what basing was. And I had mentioned people do fancier basing. This is something you would do when you played. I can move them around. It still looks good. It works on a play surface. Some people do them for more of a showcase type thing, and it's just, this is for display only and not for playing. I did one of these in the past. It didn't turn out very well. Basically, all I did, that's like wood shavings, and I just sort of glued it to the base so it looked like he was walking, sort of on a forest floor type thing. Not the best. This is the only one of these I've ever done in the past. I have done a little terrain building in the past where we use some of the techniques in basing, so I'm going to be basically showing some of that. So last time I glued her weapon in place, and she has this little square base, and I'm going to do her, basically a fancy basing. This will be a display only figure. It's going to be very simple because she's on the little 1-inch base. Some people, when they base, they would take something a little bigger. They just glue her on there, and that way they have more space to work with, more fancy stuff they can do. This is going to be very, very simple what I do here. Again, I don't have a lot of space to work with, so it has to be simple. We want to do a few things. We're going to be using glue and stuff, so I'm going to just lay out a paper towel to work on, just so I'm not getting glue all over the place. And the glue, we're just going to use your basic school brand glue. We could use, some people I suppose would try to use the super glue, but this actually works fairly well. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a little something, squirt some glue in there. Because if you'll remember when we first, episode 2 or 3 of this, we don't need a lot because it's a small base. But I mentioned, overpainting and how, it's better to have the wrong color on the wrong object than it is to have, you can see a little bit of her sleeve color on her arm, maybe if you look closely. It's just, that looks better than having unpainted metal or resin or whatever the mini's made of showing through. And in like color, or in like manner, we don't want glue showing through our basing material, so I'm just going to add a little bit of brown paint to this and mix that in. It's still going to be sticky, but it's going to be a different color, and that way that didn't turn out. I was hoping, I was hoping that the paint or the glue would lighten the color of the paint more. It didn't work out quite as much as well. But the idea now is we aren't going to have white showing through. We're just going to take that and we're just going to glob it around here. Fairly liberal coating of this. If I had thought enough in advance, I would have brought a Q-tip home, or gotten a large Q-tip, something to use as a brush. Here I'm just sort of using a stick to smear it around. We want to cover the base well without getting any on the figure, which that's sort of the big challenge in this case. And this is why I would have used a brush or a Q-tip or something that I could reach in there better than with this, because we want to get good coverage actually. Yeah, I'm going to use a brush. I just have to remember to clean this well when I'm done. Because we want to get the brush, like I said, we want to get the base covered, but we don't want to get it all over her feet. So this is something we just need to... Yeah, fortunately the school glue does clean well, so I didn't just waste a brush completely. But I do have to remember to clean it when we're done. Wipe some of that excess out of there. And then we're going to want to take some more paper towel, and just because we want to just wipe off the areas that we don't want glue on, because again we don't want our basing material. Okay, now we take a bigger tray and just set her inside there. One thing, so basically it's now a matter of, she's a desert type looking person, so I'm going to do her in a desert just for some variety. I got a small pebble, I'm just going to sort of stick that off to the side just for, there's a stone there, and this is something, maybe move it to another place here. And depending, again, on the size of the base, you could do more detail like that and add more stuff. And we're going to take, again, as a desert character, got a little bag of grain. This is not actual sand here. This is actually one of the soil labs up where I work. They do a lot of stone grinding and stuff. This is actually stone crust. We're just going to sprinkle that around here. And that's why we got the second tray here, just so we can catch the stuff. And again, we just want to cover very well. If I had a bigger surface, then I might like put little indentations in here, try to make it look like her footprints walking across. But again, I'm only doing a 1-inch base, and we just shake it off, as Taylor Swift would say. Ha! And that is really the harder part. I'm going to take another brush. Again, I want another clean one. I'm just going to brush her off, make sure I don't have any sand on her. Because what we're going to do now is we are going to take another little tray, put a little bit more glue in there, just a very little bit. So it helps if you open the bottle. There we go. And I am going to add some water to that. That might be a little too much water. And where'd my stick go? There it is. Take this, use the other end. I just want to... Yeah, that was too much water. Be right back. I want to dump some of this out and start again. I'll be back in less than a minute. Okay, so starting again. And I just dropped my glue. There it is. A little bit of glue. Again, gotta open the bottle before I do that. There we go. Very little bit of glue. Less water this time. There you go. And we want to mix that in. And what I'm doing here is basically making sort of homemade sealant. I want this to be a little sticky, but not... We still want it to be transparent. So, and this is something we're going to spray over our sand. That way, that's still got a little sticky to it, yeah. When the glue dries, not all the sand is going to stick. You know, it's going to become brittle in places, whatever. And so we just don't want sand to be leaking around. I'm going to... Normally, when we do this, like making gaming terrain or whatever, we would just take a spray bottle. But because we don't want to get glue water all over our figure, I'm just going to dip a little paper towel and squeeze it around. And so this is like a little sealant. It's going to hold any loose sand in place. Oop, just drip some water off the other end there. And this will allow me to do it without getting it on the figure, or getting as little as possible on the figure. Like I said, we tried to make the mixture transparent so that it won't, you can see through it. But yeah, we still, still don't want globs of it showing up on the figure itself if possible. There'll probably be some on her feet, but that's it. And again, I will just wipe the outer edge here, get the glue off. And that was it. That was a short little, shorter video than most of them, and that's even with the recap. When she dries, I'll show her next week just to show you what it looks like. That little extra glue we put on here will also help hold the little pebble down. And that is it for tonight. So I will see you next time. Next time will probably be the last video I do on this series. So hope to see you then, and goodbye.